Hey friends, hello and welcome back. Let's talk about the poem Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard in this video. The poem Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard was composed during 1745 and 1750 and was actually published in 1751. It is written in iambic pentameter with the rhyme scheme AB, AB for each stanza. The poem is an elegy and is also known as retirement or graveyard poetry. The stanza pattern of the poem is elegiac stanza or heroic stanza. An elegy generally mourns the death of someone. He wrote this poem after the death of his friend Richard West. This has to be remembered. This poem was written after the death of Gray's friend Richard West. The poem is an elegy of the common man. It is Gray's masterpiece. It is philosophical as well as emotional. Its simplicity is its beauty. The speaker talks to the reader in this poem. He stands alone in a graveyard and thinks about the people buried there. The graveyard is the graveyard of church in Stoke, Poges. The speaker contemplates the end of human life throughout the poem. Inevitability of death is focused in the poem. The poem contains 128 lines and 32 quatrains. It can be classified into two parts. The first part is the poem describing life of the dead as imagined by the poet by looking at the things in the graveyard, and second part of the poem is epitaph. The epitaph contains 12 lines or 3 stanzas. The epitaph begins from line 117 of this poem. The poet asserts that death is unavoidable and natural for all. When one dies today, tomorrow a stranger will see the person's tombstone. Out of curiosity, he'll ask about the person buried there to a villager. The villager will reply that he knew the man. He would add that he had seen him in various spots. Sometimes he'll also remark that he had stopped seeing the man one day. In the poem, Gray himself wrote the epitaph. He says that his life is full of sadness and depression. However, he feels proud of his knowledge. He calls it incomparable. In addition to this, he says that no one is perfect in this world, so he asks the reader not to judge anyone in the graveyard. Each and every soul is different and takes rest for eternity in the graveyard. In conclusion, the poet, through the speaker, ends the elegy by saying that death is an inevitable event in this world. He also says that man's efforts and his struggles to succeed in life come to an end in death. Thematically speaking, the poem speaks of ordinary people. It is an elegy for poor villagers. They are not famous, but they are honest. So, the poet has written this poem to honor them. The poem talks about death as an equalizer. Rich or poor should end in death. Moreover, no man can escape death. In death, all are equal. Besides, nothing, including any amount of rich or glory, can bring the dead to life. Even poor people deserve respect for their death. Given opportunities, they would have become great men. As far as the setting and mood go, the time is evening and every living being on the earth is retiring for the night. As the poem opens, the speaker is seen at the churchyard. He hears the usual evening sounds. The church bell is ringing, the shepherds and their cattle are returning home after the day's work. The location is rural. The atmosphere is subdued and melancholic. Darkness and the silence fill the place except for the hooting of the owl, the buzz of the beetle, and the ringing of the bells. Regardless of all this gloom, the speaker stands in the middle of the tombstone in the graveyard. And while there, he imagines the lives of dead people. As an elegy, this poem mourns the death of ordinary men. In this poem, Gray talks about the death and the lives of the middle class people. The poem follows all the conventions of elegiac tradition. Scholars look at this as the representative piece of literature for the genre of elegy. Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard has heroic quatrains as stanzas. 4 lines with iambic pentameter constitute each stanza. A pentameter consists of 10 syllables. Also, the first and the third line rhymes at the ending. The second and the fourth lines rhyme at the ending of each stanza. Secondly, the rhyming scheme is A B A B, C D C D, E F E F, and so on. Thirdly, and most importantly, the poem follows conventions of an elegy. There is a pastoral setting. However, There are no pastoral characters. The poem ends in the poet's own epitaph. In addition to its great content, the poem has beautifully executed figures of speech in the stanza that talks about hidden gems and desert flowers. That's all in the introduction. In the following videos, the poem will be discussed in detail, line by line. Till then, have a good time.